Hi everyone, it's David from LendPower again. Welcome to another episode of Invest Power. And today I want to touch on a little bit more from our last episode, which talks about the differences of borrowing capacity between buying a home versus investing in property. And I thought today I'm actually going to give an actual example of how the numbers are going to be differs to give you a bit more idea and visualization. I'm the person who likes drawing things out, so here I am with a whiteboard and also a marker. Just so that I can actually draw some pictures and give you some numbers, and hopefully that will make it easier to understand. Okay, so let's get right into it. All right, so today I want to cover about why does the borrowing capacity differ between owner-occupier and investor. Now, just to give an example, first of all, I'm going to start with someone who wants just to buy a home. And then on the other side, I'm going to give an example of an actual investor scenario, so that way you get to see what the differences are. Okay, so assuming that we've got Joe, who wants to buy his home today. Okay, so he's got his home right here, and Joe lives underneath the roof. Now, assuming Joe's on a salary of about $70,000. Okay, now, this property, because he's living in there will be no rent. So it's a big fat zero. Okay? Now, so when banks look at this in terms of assessing how much they can borrow to Joe, what they look at essentially is a combination of these two factors. It will be a salary plus an actual rent. So in terms of borrowing capacity, I will be looking at the number that can be used for servicing is 70,000. Simple. That plus that. Because there's no rent, therefore the salary this time is to be used 100%. Okay? Now, let's look at the other scenario where, let's say for example, we've got Mary. Okay? So, Mary, who is an investor, bought a investor property, and there will be a tenant which lives underneath that. Okay, so tenant, therefore, just to make it equal for everyone, we will have Mary also earns $70,000 of the salary income. Now, the rent, because Mary's not living in there and the tenant's living there, the tenant pays rent, therefore, let's just say the tenant pays $20,000 a year of rent. Okay? So, in that case then, applying the same methodology that we use here, how the banks look at it, where Mary wants to buy this property, which we just call it an IP, and this one we call a home, to make it more complete. So when banks look at wanting to how much they can lend for the IP, they look at a combination of these two again. In most cases, bank actually will take 100% of the salary. However, most of the time, and depending on the security, depending on the location of the property as well, most banks only take up to 80% of the actual $20,000, which means at 80%, the actual amount can be used is about $16,000. So, adding up these two combinations, it's a salary plus the actual shaved rental income at $16,000, which gives for borrowing capacity wise, the amount of figure can be used for servicing is $86,000. So the difference of that, $70,000 versus $86,000, simply because that the tenant is paying additional rent. For that purpose, banks are willing to consider using up to 80% portion of the rent in order to improve the servicing. So in this case, Mary will be able to borrow more just because that figure is about $16,000 extra on top of just the salary. Okay, so primarily that's the difference. Now, there are also some subtle differences in terms of, like I said before, where the location of the actual IP can be. This is not subject to just, for example, whether you're buying IP or home. Home also has potentially, like security, location, and complexity behind it. But in an IP, let's say, for example, you've got a property that is an apartment in a high-density unit in South Brisbane. In that scenario, some banks will look at it as it's a high-risk area because there's all these concrete jungle and all these high-density apartments which being released in lots and lots of them, so supply's too much, whereas there's not enough demand as such. And as a result, some banks will not take 80% of that. Some banks may only take 50%, as an example. So, in this case, if Mary bought something in South Brisbane, like a high-density apartment, and wanting to finance that through the bank, banks might go, well, even though the tenant's paying $20,000 or will be paying $20,000 a year, I am not going to take 80% of that for servicing. Instead, I'm going to only take 50% because now this property is in a higher risk area for me. And as such, Mary's actual number or actual servicing income that can be used is 70,000 plus 50% of 20,000, which is 80,000. So potentially, Mary may not be able to borrow as much. So that's just something to keep in mind as well during purchase. So just a bit of thoughts that I thought I'll share that as well. But in essence, the main difference comes about whether there is a rent or not. Okay, so hopefully this actually gives you a bit more idea about why the servicing and why that borrowing capacity differs between buying a home and buying investment property. Now, if you like the video, please click on the like button. If you got any comments for me, comment below, and I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions, or even I can actually do another one of these sessions if you require any further information or explanation about any topics which are not clear. Okay, I'm David from LendPower. Thank you for watching another episode, and I'll see you next time.